We'll see if people actually hear this with all the noise in there.
Yeah, we'll
Very
find out.
busy coffee shop.
It is very busy today. So I think because it's Labor Day weekend, everybody here is in town. It's kind of a touristy spot, so.
Yeah, I guess I forget about that.
I know, me too. I forget that
Two Rivers
our
is
little
a
small
tourist
town, yeah, has little. It is a cute town though, so I don't.
It is.
And I love that the artist community is really up and coming around here. So I think that's helping with tourism a lot. We have all those cool murals coming up in town and a lot of art along the lakeshore now, like sculptures and things. So I think that's pretty nice that it's starting to be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate it as an artist. So cheers to that.
Not my kind of art, though.
No. I know, it's hard with painting. Unless you do outdoor painting, it's really not.
Well, we got an art gallery across the street.
We do.
You know, all the art galleries in small towns are just selling landscapes and still lifes and crap.
Yeah, and kind of like the maker
of
maker stuff too.
Pouring paintings. It's, not
Yeah.
my kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not exactly fine art.
No.
It's still fun art. But yeah.
It's decorative. It's not, it doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
I like modern art and books too that say something. that
Yeah.
have a
It
point to
speaks.
It's
It makes
just,
you feel things.
Sometimes just a fun adventure is great, but I do prefer something like H.G. Wells where you got the adventure.
Yeah.
But you also got a little something extra.
Yeah, for sure.
That you can get something out of.
Yeah, there's some kind of moral or some kind of value in there somewhere. I do appreciate that, especially about his work, because he goes through such extremes
Yeah.
to portray it, and I appreciate that. I like being one extreme or the other. Chai tea charger this morning as usual, because I really needed the espresso.
And I got one too.
You didn't get just coffee. That's okay though.
Yeah,
You can
is there any
if you want.
coffee in this?
I don't think so. I mean, the espresso is probably the closest thing to coffee you'll get in there.
Oh, okay.
So maybe.
One of these times I'm gonna bring my own stuff and I'm gonna make it look like a big sundae or something. 'Cause that's what I
Just
feel
make it
these
all
are
like, just get a bunch of whipped cream on top, throw
Cherry
cherries.
sprinkles.
Yeah, do the whole spiel. We'll have to go to Starbucks, just get one made for you. Like find the frilliest drink. Do a Starbucks run just because they do go over the top sometimes with those. I love it. It's funny. But yeah. Yeah, so.
Why don't you go first this time?
Oh, okay.
What have you been up to the last 2 weeks?
Well, last 2 weeks, I finished with my book club, The Language of Flowers by Vanessa Diffenbaum, I think is how you say her last name. That was a really good read. I don't know how to classify this book. It's kind of a dramatic romance. Like there's a romance in it, but it's two very damaged people. So the whole premise is basically this orphan girl had a chance at, a last chance at this house and thought she was going to get it because she really loved her foster mom. And then shit goes down and the adoption falls through and all this stuff very dramatically happens as part of her drama. So she has really a hard time making connections with other humans. And eventually she ages out of the foster care system. But when she was at that house, her foster mom taught her the language of flowers. And so she ends up being homeless for a while, but figures out how to get into this flower shop and learns how to she has her own underground flower shop she eventually comes up with, and she reconnects with the nephew of the stepmom, and they kind of have this romantic dance around because they're both kind of touch-me-nots kind of thing because of his mom was mentally ill and her foster mom was trying to rekindle the friendship, and that's where all the drama started between the two sisters, and everything blew up, and there was a whole bunch of stuff that just happened because both of them were not mentally stable people.
Yeah.
And so these two kids basically are trying to deal with their trauma while also conducting a relationship, but like being really patient with each other and kind of like doing this push and pull kind of thing. So it wasn't like a typical romance. It felt more like a drama to me. And I really appreciated it because there was more going on than just these two dancing around each other trying to figure out how to conduct a relationship with one another. So it was just, and it was really well done. It was a fast-paced book. I actually liked it. I didn't think I would because, you know, I don't like romances very much, but I had suggested it to my ladies book club because, one, it was summer. It sounded like a good summer beach read kind of book, and that's, you know, kind of what the ladies wanted for summer. And two, because I had picked it up at a thrift store and had it sitting on my shelf for years. And I was like, I'm going to read this eventually, whether I like it or not, because I had the original book, The Language of Flowers, the Victorian guidebook on what each flower means.
Okay.
So I thought, so this would be kind of fun to correlate between the two and see how accurate it was. And it was really a fun read for me. I really enjoyed it. So it wasn't like the highest literature I ever read, but it was a solid, probably 3.5, 4 stars for me. Okay. I liked it a lot.
So who would you recommend that book to?
I would recommend, well, it's a good beach read, and probably kind of a cozy. It's kind of a cozy story because even though there's trauma, a lot of it is kind of revolving around understanding like the different definitions of love and what that looks like. So it's kind of a cozy read. So I would recommend this for people who like dramas. I would recommend it for people who like complex romances because you are dealing with two very broken people who are trying to like dance around their issues. Yeah. I think it's really good for people who have children who are coming from a foster situation and who are adopting. Also, all the proceeds from these books, when you buy them, go towards, I can't remember the name of the charity, but it's a charity that helps give resources to parents who are dealing with very troubled teens through the adoption process. And trying to help get teens who are aging out of the system back on their feet. So it's just a really cool book that does good as well as speaks to the truth of what people deal with. And the woman who wrote this actually wrote it based off of her daughter's trauma experiences, aging out of the system and all this, you know, all the issues that this daughter had anxiety over before she got adopted and all the issues she had after she was adopted with intimacy and mental health and all kinds of stuff. So it's a really good book. It seemed very realistic. The characters were very, even though the trauma wasn't my experience, I had enough empathy for them where it's like, wow, this feels like exactly how it would go. Like I would feel this way if I was in this situation. So I felt like it was really well done, and the characters had a lot of depth despite a lot of the time trying not to deal with their emotions. Okay. But they just felt really realistic to me. And it was a really fast read. It didn't take me very long to read it once I actually like buckled down and read it. And the girls in my book club really enjoyed it too. They thought it was a really fun story. So I liked it. It was good. So I finished that up. I finished The Divine Comedy, which was actually really comforting for me because I've gone through several losses this week. My cat died, and I lost a couple people actually in the same week. One of our neighbors has passed, and then I lost a friend of mine. So it was a lot to have happen in 1 week. But I found I had gotten to paradise just as crap started hitting the fan in my life and we started losing these people. So I found it very comforting to kind of finish off in paradise, though I have to say Inferno is far more interesting than the other two. Oh, yeah. So I get why there's just like Dante's Inferno. And then you could get collections of the Divine Comedy and you can't find the other two books at all. Because that's like the most interesting part.
And I think that's where a lot of people would probably be a little confused at your comment that it would be comforting, because most people only read the Inferno.
I know.
And don't go any further.
Yeah.
And they don't understand how it's Dante's journey through dealing with Beatrice's death and trying to reconcile those.
And also making social commentary on all the people he hated, which was hilarious.
Yeah.
Or like anybody he thought who was just like a total d-bag. He just threw them in hell or purgatory in some manner. And everybody he loved, he just threw up in heaven. There were some that were practical.
Good for us.
The police are here. They're getting their coffee. Anyway, yeah, so I really thought it was kind of interesting how he used it as social commentary, as well as like some things were just practical, like the Greek poets and stuff being in kind of this inferno because they never experienced the Christian faith because that was pre-Christ and things like that. I thought that was kind of interesting. How he chose to organize
personally,
that.
I think that's the most prejudiced thing about Christianity is all those people who lived before Christianity existed, and our assumption that because they believed in the pagan religion, which was the dominant religion in our society, that they're all bad. And it's, well, then the fact that the whole name and concept of hell comes from the pagan story, but for them it was just the land of the dead.
It was Sheol. Like even in Jewish culture, there was no hell. It was Sheol. You just died. Nobody knew quite what that looked like. There was no, your spirit went there, and that's where it was. For all you knew, it was oblivion. Yeah, it just was a place where you went when you died, just the way it was. But yeah, I think it's really interesting because getting back to that, kind of that point is that most of modern Christianity is built around this fiction. I think it's interesting. Like, I was not raised Catholic, so I didn't understand the levels of hell or know what they were and like how we perceive Catholicism. Purgatory is not part of my personal theology, and like paradise also having this was really a very unique concept that I would have never
But that whole concept is not part of the Bible.
No, it's not biblical at all.
Of Christianity.
But people believe it like it is. Yes, it was entirely just for the storyline and just kind of how he chose to organize his world and maybe even his belief. We don't know if it's for sure what he actually believed. It just was a story propulsion, essentially.
Yeah, and I really do believe it was him working through his feelings about Beatrice.
Yes.
And death and such, and exploring his ideas about his personal sin, his ideas about the sins of people around him. That's why there's so much criticism of contemporary people. And then just working through that and finding his way to God. It's not meant to be a map of the real hell. It's totally his fictive construction based on what he went through mentally.
Exactly. And I just think it's so interesting as a culture, especially having been raised in that Christian culture, that so much of what we believe about heaven and hell is based in this work and not even the Bible. So interesting how it just like permeated culture so quickly. And I wonder why that was. Was it like sanctioned by the church at some point as a good piece of literature? Like what made it famous?
Was grabbed by all the intellectuals as an important work of Italian literature. During the Renaissance, of course, they pushed all that stuff and made all those previous writers and artists that they idolized. They turned them into almost godly stature. So they kind of started a cult of personality based on people like Dante and the other great artists and writers and philosophers of the late Middle Ages.
It was an interesting read. But I found it really comforting during that time of loss because I was in paradise and kind of having that like just that feeling of paradise was kind of nice. So I see why it appeals to people so much because that is kind of comforting. And it also feels good to know that people you hate are probably, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But it was a really good, it was a good read. And of course we're going to do a longer video about it later. But I found it very comforting during the period of time that I was reading it, especially because just as I hit Paradise, it felt like everything was going to crap in my life. It was a really rough. This past week has been a really rough week. So I finished that up. I'm kind of trudging my way through A for Andromeda again. I'm trying to pick that back up. I was like halfway through it, and then all these other books kind of hit the runway for me, so I had to kind of barrel through those. But I'm back on A for Andromeda, and I'm really enjoying it. It's kind of like mystery, sci-fi, alien stuff. It's a fast read. It took me no time at all to be halfway through it, and I feel like it was short enough so far that it didn't like forget what happened after all those other books I read, and it was unique enough. So I'm really interested to see that. Of course, it's a 1950s book, so it's got the usual sci-fi tropes, the damsel in distress, but she tends to be our main protagonist, so I appreciate that, so that she's not as like flaky as some of the other women that are put in sci-fi for their time. She's actually very competent. She's actually an agent. So it's really nicely done. I'm enjoying it a lot. So I'm getting through that. Still working on Joan of Arc, of course. Picked up another book about Joan of Arc at the thrift store this weekend. So I'm just like on a Joan of Arc kick right now, for the most part. But yeah, and then I also have another video I'm gonna put up. A friend of mine had a bunch of old books that her mother gave her, and so I'm gonna do a book haul video of those. I'm really excited about it, just because like it's not the typical books I get in book hauls. So I've already made the video, I just have to edit it and put it up. But I'm very excited about that. So that's kind of been my week thus far. And of course, a lot of life happened in between that. So, doing what I can to hold up, essentially. Books are helping. So, there we go. That's what I've been up to. How about you?
I haven't finished any books in the last 2 weeks. Mainly, it's just, I don't know. I had a few days where I wasn't COVID, but I just wasn't feeling the greatest. And just couldn't, I tried sitting down and reading and just couldn't focus on the book, and so I just set it aside.
Fall allergies are hitting real early, I feel. Like all the fall blooms kind of happen late, so there's a lot of pollen in the air. It's easy to not feel well right now with the weather changes and stuff too. So I get that.
I've got something I've had since I was a kid that
just flares up.
by stress, and I get all kinds of weird symptoms. It just puts me down.
Yeah.
When it first came on, I was in high school, and I had a month and a half, and I couldn't eat.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it can get that bad. I haven't had it that bad since.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I couldn't eat anything. I had weak tea and jello water for a month and a half.
Wow.
That's all my system could handle. It was just so far.
The human body is such a funny thing. Like I've had that where like for the longest time before 10 a.m. can't eat solids or I throw up. It's to this day.
I get that. When I first wake up, my stomach's a little queasy. I usually eat.
Yeah, if I eat by, I could drink just fine. Any liquids are fine, but like if I eat before 10 a.m., I get nauseous and I throw up. Human body's weird. Just does weird stuff. But anyway.
So I've been plugging along on the Divine Comedy and plugging along on Breathe. I'm pretty far along on both. Breathe has been a good book. It's interesting because it kind of ties in with the Philip Roth book that I just put a video up on Friday. Because they're both of the same generation. They both started publishing in the early 60s.
Yeah.
And in both cases, they're more concerned with the inner mind, the inner thoughts, the inner life of the character than with events.
I really like books like that, though. I think that's why I like American Psycho so much, because it's very POV, and the events are just kind of tertiary, because he doesn't give a shit. So I do appreciate literature like that, where it's more psychological than it actually is, like, action.
In the average book, you'll have something going on, and you'll have the character stop it and think, well, I better get over there because that's a better vantage point to to shoot at them or something. And that's, you know, that's the deepest inside thought you get. With books like Roth and Joyce Carol Oates, and apparently I haven't read any other Joyce Carol Oates, but apparently all of her work is of this sort, where she's exploring the inner life.
That's cool.
Not events.
She must have been an introvert.
I don't know. She's still alive.
Let's ask her. Are you an
interviews?
Please comment on our videos.
Yeah, she's still alive and very much active. Really, awesome. If you see interviews on YouTube, she's a very interesting person.
Yeah.
Got very intelligent. Got a lot of interesting perspectives on things.
Yeah.
And she's been writing for a long time. She's written a lot of books and is considered one of the greatest American authors.
That's awesome.
And this is her latest book. Just came out. Was it August? I think it came out in August. Yeah. And I started reading it right away.
Awesome.
And you know, the story explores what the main character is a woman. She's married to a guy who gets cancer and is dying. And about halfway through the novel dies. And the second half of the novel is what she goes with dealing with all that.
Coping.
So it's pretty intense, and she's old herself, so she has you know, her husband having cancer, he goes through a period where his mind gets sort of confused and is not knowing what's going on. But afterwards, she gets where she's almost like hallucinating, or maybe even having a little bit of dementia because of trying to process the whole situation. And so the book gets some pretty surreal moments. To the point where I was reading this with Samantha. Samantha said she was confused by it, and she said it didn't really have an ending. Well, I haven't got to the end, so I don't know yet. But I think it's like Philip Roth's book. That didn't really have an ending either.
Yeah.
You know, the metamorphosis happened, and you go through this guy dealing with the change, but then at the end, it just he just continues on like that, and nothing is really resolved. He isn't medically transformed back, or doesn't die like Gregor does in Metamorphosis. He just continues on. So
y'all need to watch more anime, because that's definitely kind of a very Eastern concept of having things kind of not have an end. Or like leaving more to the imagination of what happens next, where it just kind of almost seems to end on cliffhangers, but it's like, I'm not afraid of ambiguity, so I like those, because I can come up with several alternatives to how things end and not have a problem, and be like content with just choosing my own ending, or just being content with, okay, and then life goes on.
Yeah. But these authors weren't writing the book to get to an end.
Yeah.
They were writing the book to explore what's going on.
Yeah.
And they do.
And when the events are done,
they stop exploring what's happening inside this person's head. There's nothing else to write about. There is no ending. It's like real life. You know, the next day comes and things keep going. And there is no ending. And I think that was a concept. I think the fact that both of those writers being in the same generation, I think that was something that must have been in the minds of writers of their generation, that they wanted to explore.
So what year was this, more or less?
Well, the book
what
was
decade?
the book was written just this year.
Okay.
But Joyce Carol Oates started publishing in the early 1960s.
Okay.
About the same time as Philip Roth.
Okay.
So they are of the same generation. Even though Roth is dead, Oates is still very much alive and writing.
Yeah, because I'm wondering how much of that was influenced by like the 60s culture, where people are starting to look more inward. People are starting to have this more metaphysical introspection kind of thing. So that would make sense to me.
I think so. I think it's that literature kind of evolved out of like Hemingway and Steinbeck into this during the 60s and 70s. And of course, I haven't read a lot of the more literate authors of that period, so I'm just kind of getting into it. But based on these two, I think that's what's going on. Is it was maybe not a conscious movement on their part, but just because because of larger things in society. Writers were kind of going down that road and focusing on that.
Yeah.
And like I say, I'm not done with it yet, but so far it's a really
Good. Sounds awesome. It sounds like the kind of thing I like, because I do like those like internal monologue stuff, the dialogues. I like psychological thrillers a lot, or like, I don't know, I just really enjoy introspective books where it's analyzing the self more than it is action. I think that's kind of why I think I would actually really enjoy the rest of the Herland series, because it is just dialogue and conversation about ideas, and I feel like it takes a really big mind to make a whole book about ideas. I think it's more of a smaller mind to have all these little nitpicky dramas and things like that. Like, I hate to say that because I don't want to be super judgy about literature, but like romance novels are very shallow to me. I don't think it takes a great mind to write a good romance, you know, but...
You know, with all of those genres, you're going to find just hundreds, maybe even thousands of paperbacks out there that do just kind of rewrite the same story over and over to make a buck for the publishers. But if you dig into it, all of those come from sources where better writers wrote that sort of thing first, and they did an amazing job.
Romeo and Juliet. It's a trope. Beauty and the Beast. It's a trope.
Or, you know, for like romance, a lot of it's coming out of the Brontes and Jane Austen, that kind of thing.
Yep.
They did it right. Today's authors are just kind of regurgitating.
Yep, they're regurgitating. And adding more sex because that's what sells.
Yeah. Science fiction has a lot of that too. A lot of, you know, most of
Last Man on Earth is a trope.
Yeah, most of the greatest tropes of science fiction were written by H.G. Wells.
Yep.
Everybody else has been regurgitating and just adding more modern science.
That's true. Like, and
characters.
Lovecraft again too. Like, he made a lot of tropes that people are doing all kinds of spin-offs of all over the place. That's true. That's very true. I often forget that because I'm like, these people are high literature and these people are just knockoffs. But I think you're right. The stories aren't that different.
But the ones that are writing high literature, sometimes their works do fit into the genre, sometimes they don't, but they're out there.
Yeah.
It's just harder to find them because in most cases, like Joyce Carol Oates' latest novel, I'm not seeing a lot of other YouTube channels talking about it. It's a brilliant novel, better than any of the books that 99% of the other booktubers are talking about, because this is, you know, an author that's on par with like I mentioned, Hemingway and Steinbeck and the best authors that have ever existed. And most of the rest of what we're all reading, as much as we're enjoying it, let's face it, it's just not on par with that. It's just not that good of writing. So, you know, but the really, really incredible authors just aren't getting the attention, I don't feel. It's the ones that are writing the quick, action, fun, light stuff that are really selling books.
Yeah.
And,
Disposable books.
Yeah.
That's what I often call that.
Kind of brings me to one I just got that I want to read.
I like the
this
cover.
yesterday in the mail. It's a Subterranean Press book.
Okay.
So it's nicely done.
Very
Even though it has a dust jacket.
I like the
it's
dust
signed,
jacket.
Yeah,
The signed copy.
Yeah.
Love it.
Gosh. The video. And not a lot of illustrations to this. It's more just a straight book, but it is very beautifully
Really nice
designed.
typography.
Nice typography. There's some illustration. Now, after I got this, I went to see, well, are there any other really nice, beautiful editions of other John Crowley books? And the answer is no.
Wow.
And I looked him up on the internet sciencefictiondatabase.com.
Yep.
And he hasn't written a huge number of books. But if you, in that website, if you look at each of the books, you can see the publishing history, all the different editions that have been published. And for, you know, for most authors, booklovers, you get the big long list that you have to scroll down.
Yeah.
For John Crowley, there's like 5 editions of each of his books.
Wow.
Very, very light, very, very little attention. And when I was young, this guy, he started publishing in the early 70s.
Mm-hmm.
He was at the end of that literate new wave science fiction generation, like Harlan Ellison and Ursula Le Guin.
Mm-hmm.
And his writing is very literate. At the time he started publishing, it's kind of borderline science fiction fantasy. Really.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't Star Wars, shoot 'em up space opera. This is much more literate. It's at a higher level than most science fiction.
And what makes you say that? Like, what makes it feel like a
Writing
higher
style,
level?
concepts, character involvement, just that he's
Just
not,
more world building, more
He's not-
societal building.
he's not concerned with all those tropes. He's writing his story and his characters and his world. He's not checking off all the world building, characterization, magic system. He's not checking off all those tick boxes that everybody else talks about today. He's just writing his book, kind of like Joyce Carol Oates is. She's not writing something that fits into what's popularly publishing. She's writing her story, which probably comes out of her experience. Her husband died about 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
And it's probably drawing from her experiences with him dying.
Okay.
John Crowley is again, he's more literate. He's writing his stuff. He's not worried about saleability. He's not worried about checking off all the popular tick boxes.
He has the idea,
He's
it's
not
original,
worried about
he's doing it.
adventure. He just has this more artistic concept that he wants to build into his novel, and he writes it.
Okay.
And that's typically what takes a book above all the rest of what's best selling right now. But it also typically takes it into the value bin right away.
Yeah. I think some of the best books I found were at thrift stores or at the dollar store. I shit you not. Like, I find so much William Gibson. I love William Gibson. Dollar Tree. He's always in the Dollar Tree books. Always.
But
Great literature.
guess what's coming out September 7th, Tuesday?
What?
William Gibson wrote the first version of the screenplay for Alien 3.
Yes. Yes.
It's being published.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I got it on pre-order.
I heard about that because my husband is really into sci-fi, cosmic horror, and horror in general. But he was telling me, he keeps reminding me over and over again, because I love William Gibson, that he did write the original screenplay, and then they chose a different screenplay for reasons, as one does. And that he kept saying, like, I think they're gonna publish a version. I think they're gonna publish it. And when it does, I really want to get it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, go for it. But I didn't know when. I don't know that he was paying attention either, but I'll let him know.
I just saw it yesterday.
Yeah.
I saw it was on Instagram with a pre-order button, and I just hit it and pre-ordered it from Amazon.
No
'cause
questions, just hit
Yeah, because I mean,
slam the purchase
I
button
like
so
all
hard.
the Alien movies. I didn't realize William Gibson originally wrote the screenplay for it,
Yes.
but they didn't use his screenplay.
No.
They might change it. I don't know how much they changed it, but just the thought of, I mean, try to imagine Ernest Hemingway writing your favorite movie script.
Yeah, seriously.
Or try to imagine, now in this case I think there's a lot of it that did survive to the final, but Leigh Brackett started writing The Empire Strikes Back
Yes.
before she died. She
Yes.
died in the middle of it, so somebody else finished it off. What if she would have
Just
written
finished
it
it.
all by herself? That's kind of how I think of this William Gibson book, is that
I want to know what the what ifs
Yeah.
are.
a writer of that caliber writing a screenplay for a popular movie like that.
Yes.
What did he do with it? And
Yes.
I'm just waiting to see that.
Yeah, my first book I ever read by him, because I had always seen him around, and when I was in college my junior year, because of some of the credits I needed but weren't available my junior year, I had a lot of downtime. I was still technically a full-time student, but like I had a lot of downtime because a lot of the classes were like labs. So you couldn't do the work. There wasn't homework really, or anything like that. So I did a lot of personal reading from the library, and I just go down into the fiction section and I find popular authors and I just pull them. And the very first book I ever pulled of William Gibson was Neuromancer.
Yeah.
It was so good. And then I read the second book of his I read were Zero History, and those two just, they're near and dear to my heart. They're two of my favorites of his. I really enjoyed them a lot. So I just really enjoy his work. I would love to see what he did with the Alien movies, because I too really love those Alien movies.
Yeah.
I am not the kind of, people meet me, they're like, oh, you just seem like you would be a vegan who just loves fuzzy, cozy games and stuff. I'm like, no, I like zombie shoot 'em up games, and I like horror, and like I'm just learning that I like horror, and I love like the Alien movies, like Chronicles of Riddick is bread and butter for comfort movies when I'm sad. Like after my cat died this week, we just watched the entire Chronicles of Riddick, and then we watched Jabberwocky because you need to balance the dark with the light a little bit, you know, get some Monty Python stuff in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just really enjoy that kind of stuff. So I'm really interested to see what William Gibson did with that. I'm on that same level with you. I was very excited when Joe told me he wrote the original. I was like, what happened to it? Where is it now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So super exciting.
So anyway, the main reason I brought this up is that this is now Subterranean Press is one of those really excellent small publishers doing beautiful editions, but this is the only one of John Crowley's books that have gotten that kind of treatment. And in trying to build my own collection, I'm looking for this kind of stuff. And you know, John Crowley wrote a lot of books that are considered classics, like Little Pig, and you can't get this nice of an edition of that. It just doesn't exist. The original hardcover was published, and then it's been in paperback.
Yeah.
You can get an ebook now. That's all that's available.
I just think it's so. I love this dust jacket. Particularly, I love the bright color vibrating off the black. I like that they do a more subdued color, but it's almost, it looks like it's almost it's a foil.
Yeah.
It's like a metallic ink on black.
Even that are extremely high gloss.
Yeah,
I can't
high
tell
gloss. It
which.
looks like there's a little pearlescence in it.
Yeah, it does. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it could even be like a pearlescent varnish just over the blue. It's very well done. Gorgeous. Love that.
So anyway, discovering what I did about Crowley, it brought me back to kind of what I thought about when we started talking about telltale, what I want to do with this. And it's brought me to thinking about what we've been doing lately. And first of all, we haven't been working on our books.
No, so much reading is
I want to get back
in day jobs.
I want to get back to that because that's really what we wanted to do, not videos. And so I want to do fewer videos, and I want to. Recently, we were talking about getting to the more popular books. I kind of want to. Well, we can do the more popular books, but I don't want to lose authors like Crowley,
The classics.
and the other great authors of the past. I want to get back to them.
Yeah, I agree.
And so, and it's also been hard scheduling.
Yes.
So I want to just kind of ditch our schedule and we'll read what we read.
Yeah.
We'll report on it when we're done.
Sounds good.
And otherwise, we'll do these Sunday.
Yeah. Just kind of do our quick blip reviews of different things.
And we'll still do things like book hauls or any other fun things. Like we got one
Box
that
openings.
Samantha wants us to do for how she packages her stuff for her date with a book.
I think that's a
That'll be
fun idea. I'm really excited about that. So nervous. What will I learn? But yeah. Gotta wait for the blender.
It's a date with a book, so wear what you wear on a date.
I'm going all out. Glitter makeup. It's gonna be great.
I think we got a fun concept for that.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it.
It'll be good. And then I want to find time somewhere to work on our books. And we got to decide what book we want to really focus on first.
Yeah. I think you have one that's pretty much ready to go at
I
least
need
for
to do illustrations.
yeah, ebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Wells is wanting to sleep
Yeah,
away.
because I still have to I still have, for the Herland one I want to do, I still have digital editing to do and no illustrations even started. So
Okay.
I've got a ways to go before that's ready for anything, ebook or otherwise.
All right.
So,
But the way I did When the Sleeper Wakes, I could easily turn that into a published book, not an ebook, because it's in InDesign, it's page layouts, it's just exported out to an ebook,
yeah.
and the layouts are simplified so that they'll work for an ebook. But I could easily go through and fix all that and turn it into a Kickstarter project if we can just get enough people watching that want to.
I know. It happens. Sometimes though you get viewers from things like Kickstarter. Just if the project's cool, you post it.
Yeah,
Link things.
if nobody knows who we are, if we just put it on Kickstarter, we're not going to get enough. And if you don't get your money, you pay Kickstarter and you get nothing.
Oh,
You can't
yeah.
do your project; it gets canceled. You do have to pay a fee to Kickstarter.
Yeah, see, I haven't researched
I'd
it
like
enough.
to avoid that because we don't have money to be throwing away.
Yeah, seriously. Seriously.
So I was hoping we would get enough people through social media that we would be able to count on an audience for our first published
Yeah.
books. And, there are a lot of books, a lot of authors. There's a lot of specialty publishers, but there's a lot of books they haven't had time to do.
I have a couple ideas, but we could talk about that off video later, or after we're done with this video, because I have some things and I don't want to get people too excited just yet by mentioning things and then have them not work out or not be able to have the time to do them. So,
Yeah.
but we'll see.
But then,
what we
as
can
far
do.
as what we read and review on our channel, I want us to do what we want.
Yeah.
And even if you want to read something that I think is going to be lame,
Yeah.
do a video.
Okay. I can do
and
that.
Put it up there.
I have plenty of-
Because we both have stuff we want to read that we're not reading because of we're reading this stuff together. And
It's taking time. It takes a lot of time
and
too.
It gets you frustrated that you really want to read this other thing, but you can't get to it.
Yeah, because you're stuck on
So-
this. I'm one of those people too who reads multiple books at a time, and then I just kind of put things off as I need to and reprioritize them. I have the stack of shame next to my bed of all the books I'm currently reading, and then the stack of shame that I haven't gotten to yet of books I'm going to read. Both of those are
that
next.
too.
Yeah, right next to my bed, right there.
Yeah, and we can still do something together if we agree we want to. In particular, I was talking about us doing Dune this month. The main reason for that is because of the movie, because it's a big science fiction novel that everybody talks about it. Don't really need one more channel saying the same thing, that it's a great science fiction novel. It's a great science fiction novel.
It
You
is.
should read it.
Yeah.
But I think we both have other things we kind of want to do right now that Dune is just going to interfere with, and we're going to be reading it, wishing we were reading something else. So
Yeah.
I think I want to cancel that.
That's fine.
Because then
Yeah.
we do have.
This one I do really want to read.
I don't know where this came from. There was no note. The bookstore sent it to me. It's print on demand.
Okay. Did you do a giveaway on Goodreads at all or anything?
No.
Weird.
I mean, they wouldn't do a giveaway for a print on demand of an old book.
Maybe they would. Depends on if it's just one of the book club things.
No, this, and the weird thing is that I've talked to you
Yeah.
since spring about
Yeah.
wanting to read
I
this.
think you mentioned on one video,
I?
that I can think of.
I don't recall.
That I think you probably, I think when we did one of the Edgar Allan Poe short stories,
Okay.
you mentioned it once. So I'm wondering if somebody picked up on that and sent you a copy.
Could be, because this appeared
Whoever
on my
did it,
doorstep.
thank you.
There's no note. I contacted
Whoever
the
you were.
bookseller because I do have a folio edition of this on its way from England. But this came from Grand Rapids, Michigan, so it's not that. So I contacted the bookseller and said, I think you sent me something by mistake, and they wrote me back saying, no, it's paid for. I said, I didn't pay for it. They said, it must have been a gift to you.
Okay.
So
well, thank you.
this is number one, aside from Samantha,
Yeah.
who sent me a bunch of stuff. this is the first time anybody else has done this, except we don't know who you are, so we can't properly thank you.
Except publicly like this. You know who you are, so
And
thank you.
And it's especially
This is the
great
first gift
since
we've gotten.
we want to read this and talk about it on the channel.
Yes.
So perfect.
Yeah, we thank you, and
More than
also
one
like
copy of Narrative Arthur Gordon Pym.
when it comes, so you guys know, just gonna level with you, books cost money. So when we get requests to do things and stuff like that, and we don't own the book, we have to go find it, and that's a financial burden on us, especially when we have no advertisers paying us, we have no authors paying us to do these reviews. We are doing this purely out of the kindness of our hearts. So when you
doesn't
send,
have a full-time job.
yeah, you know, self-employment's weird for me. So it really does help when you guys send us gifts like this. If you do, we just super appreciate it. Like, this warms our hearts so much, and we just really thank you, whoever you were who sent this, because it does take a financial burden off of us. So now we both can have a copy and read this together, and he doesn't have to spend a huge amount of money on getting 2 copies just because we want one for the library and one for me to read. Because that's just, it's a lot. It is a big financial burden on us. So when you guys send us books, we just super appreciate it. Thank you. Plus, it's our love language, so like now we feel really loved because you sent us this book, whoever you are.
Yeah,
We love you.
And
Thank
with
you.
our numbers on YouTube going down, it's really great to have somebody do that.
Yeah.
To know that there's at least one person out there that
Yeah.
gives a damn.
I think
about
too,
doing
like,
it.
this is so much a labor of love. Like, we do this just because we love books. We are not getting paid to do this.
No,
And I think,
we aren't sponsored.
yeah, like, I
We
honestly,
don't have Patreon.
yeah, we don't have a Patreon, we don't have sponsorships. Like, we've been looking into doing those things, but honestly, we are so busy reading and so busy having fun doing this. We haven't had time for the business half of it. We're terrible business people. And then somebody doesn't send me his receipts.
Yeah, I gotta kind
Text-
of just
yeah.
gather the emails and send them without.
Yeah,
looking,
go
'cause
ahead.
I
Even
don't
if
wanna know
screenshots,
how
I
much
don't care.
spent.
Yeah, it's just screenshots. I don't need more than that. Just screenshots of stuff so I can.
You're gonna be looking at them going, holy.
I'm actually not going to be very surprised. I've been looking at different websites and stuff of specialty publishers, so I know approximately what you're paying for things.
Yeah, I just bought the Folio Society just released Kafka on the Shore, and I ordered that, so that's on its way from England. I think
Yeah.
that's 120.
Yeah. I'm averaging probably between $100 to $300 for some of the collector's editions
Yeah,
and things
I
like
think
that
the
for the
most
library.
expensive one was 400 so far.
We got to get a building. Someday we got to get a building because this library's gonna go to
Yeah, most
needs
of
to
mine
go
are
to
stacks on the floor.
I know. I
build
need to get more shelves built in my home for the ones that you keep having me store because it's just so much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
but
then God forbid I die and it all goes to you.
Yeah.
But
another thing I want to mention too is we are starting to sell some used books that are duplicates in our collections because we're kind of going,
Instagram.
on our Instagram. We're kind of going through our collections and finding older copies of things or duplicate copies of things because sometimes we just like, oh, this is a great book, pick up a cool copy at a thrift store or wherever, and then I have more than one copy, so I end up taking the other copies and just selling them. So I'm pricing them out and I am keeping them, I'm including shipping and handling in the end price. So it is what it is. It's a DM, first come, first serve situation.
Is that shipping and handling international?
Huh?
Is that shipping and handling included international? You should probably say that because that's going to be a lot.
I'll edit that because as of right now, it's just for you, for North America, essentially.
Because if I'm living in New Zealand and I can get it for $3
Yeah.
shipping, I'm fine.
I'll talk to you offline about that too because I have another idea for that. So we would have capability of doing international shipping.
Okay.
But I'll talk to you offline about that again too. So hopefully that would work out.
Okay.
Anyway, but we are starting to sell those on our Instagram. It is for North America only, not international shipping. It is all included in the same price. So hit us up for those. I have an Easton Press edition on there, a really nice Barnes & Noble edition.
Yeah, they're great books.
Yeah, so there's a really
I couldn't believe what you put on
I
there.
know,
I thought
it's
they
a
were
really-
going to be stuff that you read
no,
as a
and
kid
it's
that you
funny
would
because
never
they're
read
like,
again.
yeah, it's funny because these are like,
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. You're
The
selling
ultimate-
your Hitchhiker's Guide to
no,
the Galaxy.
no, that's like the third one I have.
Oh.
I'm just getting rid of too many duplicates of things. So
I don't even have that for the Telltale library. I was thinking I should buy it.
I have it. So it's in my collection.
Okay.
That's part of the Telltale library. But yeah, so we're going to start kind of doing that. You'll see a little bit of that. We're going to start promoting that on social media a little bit more. So keep an eye out for those. I have some really nice editions coming up that I've, picked up over the years, and now I have too many versions of it. So
And
it's
I've
like,
been trying to convert all my stuff to hardcovers. I've got a few stacks of paperbacks that are from the 70s and 80s, and I've kept them in really good condition.
yeah. You treat your
And,
books like gods. They're beautiful.
Yeah, it's always been a collection.
Yeah.
They're just the paperbacks from when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
I've always considered it a collection. But I'm going to be putting those up there for sale too eventually.
Yep.
So
Cool.
and I've got a lot of those I can put up there.
Yeah.
They're excellent, mostly science fiction books.
Yeah, so that's something we're also working on right now. If you want to keep an eye out for those, we're popping them up occasionally.
And that'll help us.
Yeah, that will help us a lot too. Because again, like I said, this is a financial burden. We have not started making money on this yet. All of our videos have been a labor of love. We are not paid or sponsored to do those things. Our used book collection is basically what we got to offer you right now to make any funds. So if you guys want to hit up our Instagram at all, we can put a link to it in the discussion or the description of this video so that you can go and check
We
those
should
out.
put something up there on your stickers and posters.
Yep, I'm gonna work on those too, so I gotta get some pictures of those still. But working on it. It's getting there.
Well, just the digital artwork of the poster.
Yeah. So we're working on some stuff. We're getting there.
And that money will all go towards us publishing our first book,
Yeah.
which is what we're here for. What
Yep.
we really want to do. We want to create the most beautiful, imaginable book of whatever title we flip a coin
Yeah.
and choose.
Yeah.
And
We're starting with our
start-
favorites. We're just starting with ones we really love.
And it's books that you can't just go to Barnes and Noble
Yeah.
and buy a leather-bound copy of.
Yeah.
And
More
even,
obscure
Even
titles.
some of them. Now I love Folio Society and Suntop, but every now and then they publish a book, and I look at and Easton Press too.
Yeah.
I look at what they did and I go, what were they thinking?
Yeah.
And I want a book that I'm gonna love that is like that, and I'm just thinking they should have hired a better illustrator. Those illustrations are crap.
Yeah.
I don't like folios rounded with Rama. I think the colors on the cover are sick looking. Not in modern usage of sick, but the old usage of it, like it turns my stomach.
Yeah. Not the greatest coloration.
Suntop's recent Island of Dr. Moreau, the illustrations are cool, but not what I would have done, not what I want in my collection.
Yeah. Not the vision we would have had.
Not what I would have spent $200 buying. Same goes for the Easton Press Island of Dr. Moreau. I thought it was way too comic bookish, not really treating that book the way it should be treated. And so I would like our books to be fixing these problems.
Yes.
Doing the best
Our vision.
we are capable of doing.
Yes.
And maybe some of ours you're going to look at and go, what were they thinking? But we're going to try our damnedest to make them the best
Yeah.
books you can possibly imagine.
That is the thing we always have to keep in mind too, is that art is subjective. So yeah, we may have critiques of these things. Some people may love those things, but we have a vision that we think is niche to our type of reader, and we really want to come up and meet that like head on. So that's our goal. We're getting back on track. Kind of lost ourselves in the reading a little bit, which is easy to do because we love reading.
And there's so much we want to read.
So much. I'm never going to outlive my bookshelf and to be read list ever.
Yeah,
Which
I've
are two
seen-
separate things.
I was seeing you and Samantha talking about Wheel of Time, wanting to read
Yeah.
them. I'm going, oh no.
It's
What
so
is it,
many.
16 books?
It's so many books. But I got into it because I actually got a world building book focused on the Wheel of Time and its societies and its artwork and its world building. It's like a very behind the scenes book that I found at a thrift store. It's really cool.
Okay.
And got me really interested. But again, I'm one of those people too that it's like, I think the longest series I've ever read is probably either Harry Potter or The Keys to the Kingdom by Garth Nix. I haven't gone past 8 books in a series before. Really? Garth Nix? Always.
That
I hope
series,
it's an old
I mean.
For The Keys to the Kingdom? Or is it the Old Kingdom?
Not sure.
There's a lot of kingdoms
I'm
going
not
on.
an expert.
Yeah. It's probably
He's
Old
got a
Kingdom.
new book coming out.
I think it's an Old Kingdom book.
Okay.
So I'm excited because that was the first series of his I ever read and I loved it. It's so good. Oh, anyway.
I can get a signed copy. Okay, I'll get it. I'm gonna read this afternoon.
Send me your receipts. Need receipts. This is for business. Got a tax
Yeah.
write off this crap. Anyway. Even
So
though we're
I
making no
got
money.
till April 15th.
Yeah, seriously. All right, but yeah, this is a labor of love. So any way you guys can help us, sending us books, buying our used ones, we would really appreciate it because that does help us with our funding, trying to figure out how we want to do our stuff. And we're still researching a lot of our printing options and things like that. So we got a long ways to go.
Just because we want to print doesn't mean I'm going to stop talking about other publishers.
Because
Printing
there are
and
some
Press,
really
they're doing
great
some
books.
awesome
They are not our competition.
I don't see them
They
as
are
competition.
our
It's just
network.
we're all small enough that they can't possibly publish all the books I want them to publish. So somebody's got to fill that void.
Yeah. We're all just supporting the love of readers and book collectors at the end of the day. So
Yeah, so Suntub, Folio, Subterranean, Centipede Press, probably for PS Publishing, they're all doing great stuff. And
Yeah,
I love
wonderful,
for books that
wonderful
they're
things.
publishing and wish them the best. And I'll be continuing to buy and show their products there,
Yep.
even though they're not paying me.
yes.
They could, if they want to. We have our address somewhere. Send checks.
Yep. It's on our website, I think.
Yeah.
It's part of our so our telltalebooks.com. Find us, keep track of us. We have our contact us information. We're still building that website, of course, so there's a lot to get through. There's our Telltale book list, though, of some of our top tales, things that we really, really love. Hopefully we'll get the opportunity to publish some of those as well, because there are some
Well,
more
that's the
obscure
purpose
ones.
of all this, is to try and get a collection of what.
And do book reviews of all of those.
Yeah. But I mean, it's meant, well, even if we don't get around to video book reviews of them, just to have that
We do
list
at least
that we
have,
can draw upon for-
yeah, and we do have a lot of text-based, quick snippet book reviews of why we love the books that are on there. So we're working on that all the time. It's an ever-growing list. It's a living, breathing entity right now. So we really enjoy it. So yeah, and we're also gonna try and work on some shop stuff. I know we have a free download of The Cat by Edgar Allan Poe.
Black Cat.
The Black Cat.
It's on our website.
Yep, it's on our website, free download.
Ebook, you can download
Yeah.
it. It's only in ebook format, not the Kindle. What is it, Movie or something like that
Yeah.
format.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't have software that can convert it yet. But
Yeah, we're working on that, but it is a free download. Enjoy that as a freebie. Hopefully someday we'll get a donate button on there.
that would be nice.
That would be nice, but we're working on it. It's an ever-going process. It's hard with his day job and my very hustly, self-employed life. The struggle is real.
And
So
everything else going on.
yeah, there's a lot going on, a lot of life going on right now. So I hope everybody's staying happy and healthy right now. That's a big thing right now. So do the best you can.
So we're coming up on an hour.
I know, we gotta kick this one down, but
My phone's gonna blow
yeah, I
up.
know, and I'm done with my beverage, so I gotta.
Okay.
Now I'm just sad.
So say goodbye.
All right, guys, thanks for watching. We will see you next time. Bye.